This is not a shock at all, although it is a little bit surprising because of how quickly the delay was announced into 2022. In other words, the game was theoretically going to come out in November of 2022 until it was delayed, and that is the news of this video, as you saw in the title. Gotham Knights, the game, is getting delayed, so we are not playing 2 DC video games this year. We'll be lucky if we get one. We'll be lucky if we get Gotham Knights. We'll see what happens. But the thing that is a little bit surprising about it is that this delay is happening so early in the year. You know, they're really 2 months in, and maybe that shows that they are so far behind that there was no chance that they could hit that November deadline, even with, you know, at this point, 9 months to go to hit that point. So that clearly shows that this game is probably even looking late 2023. So I would probably say the game will come out in roughly 2 years. So that basically leaves us with the Wonder Woman game being developed by Monolith, which also is not coming out anytime soon, at the earliest 2023. And as it pertains to Gotham Knights in particular, that also has already been delayed, and it might get delayed again into 2023. Although I hope not. I do think that Gotham Knights, if I had to bet money on it right now and guess what's really going to happen across the industry, and this is even transcending beyond the DC video games discussion, you know, we can even talk about Hogwarts Legacy. I think that Hogwarts Legacy will get delayed to 2023. The Suicide Squad game obviously did just now get delayed. I also think that Gotham Knights will come out at the very earliest in the summer, so around June or July time at the very, very earliest, and realistically could even come out Q3 or Q4 now that more slots are crunched. Like, the problem and the reason that many of us believe that Gotham Knights was coming out in the spring or summertime is because the Hogwarts Legacy and Suicide Squad games were going to be backloaded, and they had to space the games out, so therefore Gotham Knights pretty much had to come out in the summertime at the very latest, and that was really their only option. But now what has happened is those later spots are now open because it's pretty much only Gotham Knights. Again, Hogwarts Legacy is not officially delayed yet. I'm just anticipating that it will be delayed. And according to a recent leak that I covered in my video from a reliable source that did actually leak one of the big events, I believe it was the VGAs, of what was going to be there on the WB side and what was going to be revealed with Hogwarts Legacy. So it was an accurate source. And this accurate source said that Gotham Knights is going to be coming out around the summertime, and that Hogwarts Legacy would come out in the fall, and that the Suicide Squad game will come out in November. But I kind of think that everything is going to get pushed back one quarter because WB Montreal is going to want more time with the game, and Rocksteady clearly needed a lot more time, and thus delaying it a whole year. So I think that Gotham Knights, probably now, I would adjust my prediction because of this one thing, is that instead of summer, I would probably more target like fall for Gotham Knights. And I would say Hogwarts Legacy at the very, very earliest will come out in November. And that probably, again, my prediction will be delayed to 2023 as well. So why do these games take so long to make, and why do they keep getting delayed? And why do you have games like Cyberpunk that were in development for so long come out like buggy messes? And the answer, obviously, is that these games are more complex than they've ever been, and I won't delve too deep into this conversation because we've talked about it before. But really, I feel like since GTA 5 released in 2013, every studio has had this sort of rush to make the game bigger and bigger and bigger. No matter what project you're working on, it seems that after 2013, every game kind of turned into an open world game. You look at a game like Batman Arkham City, for instance, which, well, I'll just use an example because my audience is familiar with it. You know, it's not really an open world game. I think that it's kind of more like a sandbox RPG, but the term open world would be probably misleading for a map of that size, and even Arkham Knight, frankly. I mean, compared to what we see with a game like GTA 5, I just think every single RPG, every single game that has been released since, honestly, has been trying to reach that height. And you look at a game like Cyberpunk, and that's where it gets into that situation where you're almost becoming so ambitious and so ridiculous with the map sizes and how complex the games are and how big the open worlds are, that it sort of has diminishing returns to a certain sense because the game takes so long to complete and it's almost impossible to finish the game. And the problem then is that the fans start to get upset. You'll read in my comment section right now in this video, if you go look, a lot of people are going to be pissed. And that is just, you know, sort of avoidable if the superhero games were a little bit more feasible. And again, you know, I don't want a tiny non-AAA, you know, DC video game to release, but what I am saying is that there is this proven model to make superhero video games in a way that is manageable. And I don't know that all of the games being developed right now are honestly even feasible to complete in any reasonable amount of time. Again, looking at games now that are taking a decade to complete, it seems like a sort of absurd expectation when the same exact studio, Rocksteady, at 1/3 of the size, developed, the greatest superhero video game of all time in 18 months, like 24 months tops. And that, of course, being Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, and that's because they're not truly open world games. They're not these huge, huge multiplayer online games with these giant open worlds and endless side missions and an incredibly complicated loot system with this pay plan where you can buy gear and loot and shit like that. They're just really good video games, and they could pump out one every 2 years, and it was all great. And now with this Rocksteady Suicide Squad game, it's probably this gigantic open world multiplayer, massive multiplayer online experience. So of course it's going to take them, almost 10 years, which it pretty much will be by 2023. Their past game, Batman Arkham Knight, came out in 2015, so 8 years, assuming there's not another delay to look at 9 or 10. So at a certain point, you've got to sort of balance, is what the industry doing even sustainable? Because game delays happen. It's always been a thing, and it always will be, particularly the really, really big games, like I said. But I don't know. What happened to solid, fun 6-hour story games with side missions and, AR challenges or something the equivalent? Why does every single game have to be at this absurd scale? Because at a certain point, you do wonder if W Montreal and Rocksteady are sort of at a pace of releasing one game every decade. Would we rather just have 5 like Arkham City size games than one gigantic MMO game with, all the open world shit that we're going to get? And it's going to be cool. I mean, like, I'm not knocking it by any means. I'm excited for all these games. Everybody knows that. So I'm not saying that the game's going to be shit. I'm not saying that any of these things are the case, but I'm just asking, like, honestly, I'm just asking the devs, like, is what you're setting out to do even feasible with how big these games are? And you're introducing co-op, and you're introducing the open world, and again, WB is going to be getting involved way beyond W Montreal and Rocksteady's control, and they're going to be adding in the loot and the microtransactions and all of this shit, and all of this complicated level up system. And I don't know, I just feel like it's been tried many times, and we'll see what happens. But I kind of think that in the next 5 years, there's going to be a renaissance in games that are sized more like Arkham City. And frankly, Guardians of the Galaxy as a game is kind of an example of this, to be honest, of something that's a little bit smaller in scale and more narrative focused. I think we need more games like that, and more games like, again, these more feasible, compact story player experiences with some dynamic multiplayer and online component. But I think that not every game needs to be GTA, and that's kind of the most concise way I can put it. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and ring the notification bell. We just passed 100K around here, and we're going to keep it moving, and the videos have been doing so well, so you guys are really, really enjoying the content, so I'm going to keep it up for you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.